How narcissists sedate you. Welcome to today's topic, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Coach Tobias Forst, founder of Achilles Life Coaching, decade-long recipient of narcissistic abuse, and I've saved myself from it. And I will support you on your journey to your personal freedom. So let's look at the following premise for today's video. You've had enough. You've decided you're gonna confront the narcissist in your life verbally to set a boundary. And you approach him or her and confront them with sentences like this. I don't like it when you do A. Or, it hurts me when you act out B. Or number 3, you make me feel small when you say C. Before we go into detail and move on in the video, a quick analysis of these 3 sentences that you just now uttered in this fictional scenario. Number 1 is okay. It is okay to say that you don't like it if he or she does A. But if you utter sentences like, it hurts me if you do B, or you make me feel small if you act out C, this is your probably unconscious way of completely relinquishing control to him or her before the conversation has even started. And on top of that, it gets even worse. You offer the narcissist one more entry, in case they don't already have it, for your particular human user manual, which buttons to push to make you feel small if, or to hurt you when. So please refrain from sentences that go more or less like sentence number 2 or sentence number 3. You make me feel small if, or it hurts me when. So to follow up, let's go through 4 different examples how the narcissist might react. There are several more that are possible. They are very creative when it comes to this. And I will cluster them into number 1 and number 2, and number 3 and number 4. They have a sort of a motivational difference behind them. So number 1 is, that's just who I am. Ever heard this? This is the primary example of... This is the primary example of, again, deflecting responsibility. Because whatever you have to say doesn't really matter, because this is just how he is. Number 2. She brings up a diagnosis. She claims to have ADHD. Fair enough. ADHD is a real thing. And still, it is being used, falsely used, as a wrong label that sounds plausible enough. At least it's supposed to sound plausible enough to correct that. That you might not pursue the matter further, because whatever you have to bring to the table right now, verbally, doesn't really matter, because justification 1, 2, 3, 4, or 17 or 18. ADHD is just one of the many that they sometimes use. And it's not ADHD that this person has. She's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. They know this very well. So what does this do again in cluster 1? Like example number 1, therein it's a deflection of responsibility. Cluster number 2, the response could be, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. They're not sorry, and they did, in fact, mean that. When you hear words like, I'm sorry, the behavior is likely to change, their behavior is likely to change for the next few days, and if you are in so much luck, ladies and gentlemen, it might hold on for a few weeks. And then the loop starts all over again. Response number 4 in this cluster. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I should really change that. And again, the change in behavior and maybe not acting out holds for a few days, and if you're in luck, for a few weeks. And then that loop also starts over again. So what's the effect of all four of these possible responses? And there are countless more that they come up with. The response, the effect on you is that you are being sedated. Because either you hear a justification that just sounds plausible enough, or, well, she's sorry, or he admits that you're right. And why does it sedate you? There are several possible reasons, ladies and gentlemen, and this list is certainly not a complete one here today. Why does it sedate you? Because of your empathy, because you understand where this behavior is coming from. You feel sedated because you have hope in the future faking, because she is sorry. He admits you're right. The future is going to be different than your present, is what you believe. The effect, in addition to that, of you being sedated can have to do with your cognitive dissonance. You have information 1 and information 2, and these coexist and cause an internal conflict in your mind, competing pieces of information for the same factor. You heard him say sorry, but you know there's going to be a loop of repetition. But this is more present because at this present moment, when he says he's sorry or she admits that you're right, this is the present that you hear this. He or she doesn't act out what you've just criticized. But you know it has been on repeat all this time, and it is very likely to be on repeat later on. Cognitive dissonance. You might feel sedated for the reason of you being old school, believing in one's word. You might feel sedated because you are confused. You are confused because after all this time, after having this very same conversation with this narcissist, you just cannot fathom how and why can they be like this and not manage to change. You might enter a freeze response. It's not fight, it's not flight. Freeze. Maybe you don't want to antagonize him or her anymore. Not that it really matters. Because where there is no problem, where there is no drama, they just create it. And last but not least, at least for this list, if you have any other suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. You might indulge in certain vices, like substances or other behaviors. I will divulge one of my behaviors I found as a coping mechanism. It is not something typical that you might expect. When I had these types of conversations on repeat with several narcissists in my life, that was family, friends, and intimate relationship. At that time, I had a card game which was called Arkham Horror LCG, living card game. And it is in a fictional setting during the 1920s in a fictional town named Arkham, Massachusetts, where you cooperative play 1, 2, 3, or 4 players against a scenario or a series of scenarios until you either lose or win. And you pick one of the investigators that you can play as, and you construct their ability deck. There are certain restrictions which pool of cards you can draw from, and the card pool goes into the thousands. So it is a very, if you want to have a coherent and most effective deck for your investigator, what he or she can do actually in the game, you really have to put some thought into it. And you have to know your stuff. You have to know the entire card pool. So for a duration of 2.5 years, I didn't play that game. I was some years ago now. I didn't play it, although this game is playable solo. I could have played it, but all I did at least once per week was select a single investigator, construct his 30-card ability deck, marvel at the synergies and what he or she is capable of doing if I only played them, and then I deconstructed the deck and picked the next one, and constructed a deck, deconstructed and picked the next one. Why, you might ask? And I did this with a vengeance. I did this with a compulsion. Because in this small frame of me sitting in front of a bunch of thousands of cards, I had complete control as to when and what happens. This is where substance use or behavior that has a certain, like that in my case it was a behavioral style, if that's a word for it, a coping mechanism. If, ladies and gentlemen, at any point you find yourselves in substance use, consult the respective authorities that can help you with this. This is nothing to sneer at. This is severe. So that said, and recollecting in our thoughts the 4 responses, that the diagnosis, this is who she is, he's sorry, and she says that you're right. What's actually happening below the surface? What's the motivation behind it? What actually happens is that it is a covert ban on your resistance. You are supposed to shut up. It is also a form of reinvesting in you. Well, to be correct, not really in you, because you don't matter. None of us matter to them. What we can give them is all that matters. So it is an investment into your role, your continued role, as a giver of narcissistic supply. And never forget, ladies and gentlemen, your agreements mean nothing. And in order for you to adopt a different, a more healthy and clear mindset when you find yourself next to a narcissist uttering these words like that, he's sorry, or this is just who they are, blah, 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 I'm going to construct a setting between you and me that is so over the top that I hope that it helps you learn for your situations. So let's say the following. You and I meet in public. We introduce ourselves and I give you a bit of a hint as to what a certain condition of mine is. And I say, you know, nice to meet you. There's something I would like you to know. And I have a condition that is called semi-categorical anancastic slapitis. I have the compulsion to slap every second person I encounter in person in real life. So you're in luck if you're my first client or my third client. But if you're my second or my fourth, I am sorry. I just need to slap that. Because that's just who I am. That's my diagnosis. I'm sorry. What I should change? I should not do that? Yeah, you're right. And this is what you find at home. This is how you're being lied to. These are lies, these responses. It is not the truth. It is a manipulation tactic in order to gaslight and condition you. So open your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, to what is really going on and act accordingly. And with that said, be your own hero and be your own heroine. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.